Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to look at how the USE Minis unfolded yesterday, which was the 24th of February. And well, it's quite amazing because it's basically put a support level in exactly where we were anticipating literally a couple of days ago, then gave us a perfect Holy Grail trade setup on the NQ. So this is a great example to show you exactly the true power of MTPredictor. You know, we're not an automatic system where you take trades all the time. I firmly believe that's not the way to trade, and this video will show you why that is and how you can make the most of it. But let's start on the ES, and let's start out on the higher time frame. Remember, we always go out to a time frame between 3 and 5 time frames higher. So if you're trading a daily chart, you go to the weekly. If you're trading the, say, a 15-minute forex, you go to an hourly. But as this is a 3-minute ES chart, let's go out to the 15-minute. Now what we've been saying for a while is the rally up into the high on the 22nd here, up here, if I right mouse click Elliott wave intermediate, was actually a 5-wave sequence. And what we know from what we teach in Elliott, in our own isolation approach to Elliott wave, we use an MTPredictor, is after a completed 5-wave sequence, the market usually retraces back to the DP from the prior wave 4. Remember, this would be on the chart in advance before the market even got there. But the next thing is, if this DP is exceeded, then the market will usually, and I say usually, retrace the entire prior 5-wave sequence. So what do we do? Go back to the start of the sequence, which is here. We then right mouse click, we place the DP on, and this would give you an area in advance. And I cannot stress this enough, in that this area we have had on our charts for the last couple of days. We've been talking about it in our trading webinars. In fact, we were looking at it when the market just breached this area up here. We're saying that if this was going to be a decline, the decline was likely to continue into this DP. So even before yesterday even opened, in fact during our analysis on Tuesday the 23rd, we highlighted this as an area where potential support was likely. And as you can see, that's exactly what the market did yesterday. It opened, gap down, carried on down, but look what happened. It found support right at this 15-minute DP zone, off which the market rallied sharply. It carried on back up, and if I place a DP off the prior pivot here, that's exactly where the market rallied to yesterday. But the point being is that you are anticipating this support zone in advance before the market even opened yesterday. So what's the best way to make use of this? Well, the ideal trade setup after a major support zone like that is what we call a Holy Grail trade setup. And this is where we're looking for the market to find major support, in other words support on a higher time frame chart, which is exactly what it did here. We're then looking for the market to rally, and then we're looking for it to decline, but the decline should unfold in a minor ABC. That is normally a wave 2. If I right mouse click, do Elliott wave intermediate, it's a wave 2. Then after that we're anticipating at least a strong wave 3 kind of swing, and if I Elliott wave intermediate, you can see that's exactly what we got here. So we're anticipating an initial rally, we then look for an initial correction into a wave 2, we then anticipate a strong wave 3 kind of rally into the typical wave 3 WPT. For our trade setup, we're looking for this minor ABC correction, because that's the most typical pattern in a wave 2 correction. Now, it didn't unfold on the ES, but I just want to go through you and show you that all the 3 USE minis were doing the same thing. In other words, I'll put the prior support on from this level here. Guess where the market made a low on the YM, right at that support zone. I'll do exactly the same for the NQ. There's our 15-minute chart. Here's the last major pivot low, right mouse click, exactly the same. So what I wanted to show you is all 3 USE minis yesterday were finding support right at these 15-minute DPs. In other words, all the markets were telling you the same thing. That's very important. So let's have a look now on the NQ. Here's our major support zone coming in. Here's an initial rally up, here's an initial correction down. That correction subdivided into an ABC, which gave us our TS3 setup. In fact, actually, you can see it slightly clearer on a 2-minute chart. So I'll go down to a 2-minute chart, and here it is. So there's your major support on a higher time frame. That defines that as a major low. The initial rally up is a wave 1. The initial correction down here in an ABC is a wave 2. And then we have a wave 3 swing after that. So if I right mouse click, I'll do Elliott wave major, and can you see how it places on the charts there quite nicely. In fact, actually I'll just start that again. So I'll just clear that off. I'll just put the ABC on here. So right mouse click, Elliott wave intermediate. Here's your ABC correction. But now if I go up to here, Elliott wave major, can you see how the ABC correction unfolded in a wave 2? After a wave 2, why is this so good? Well, you tend to get a strong wave 3 kind of swing. Why is that so good? Because a wave 3 is the strongest and longest swing in a completed 5-wave sequence. So in other words, you're looking to get into a trade setup here with the smallest initial risk for the largest profit. But can you see how this is all set up in advance? In fact, this was almost set up the day before, in that we're anticipating this support zone. This support zone came in absolutely perfectly, came in on all 3 USD minis that all tell you the same thing. You then look for the initial rally, that's wave 1. You're then looking for the ABC correction to unfold into wave 2, which is what we have here. You're then looking for our trade setup. You're then anticipating it to go to the typical wave 3 WPT. So let's now place the analysis on and see how we could have made a trade of this. Here's our TS3 buy setup. So this came in as an automatic trade setup. Let's right mouse click over the blue buy bar, place the analysis on. Now remember what I said, we're not looking for the target here, we're looking to go to the typical wave 3 WPT. So let's grab and drag this up to this level. Remember, we use correct position sizing to keep our initial risk small and under control, and in this case less than 2% of a sample $20,000 account. The market then went to the typical wave 3 WPT, and here a profit of approximately 8.7, or almost 8 times, well almost 9, but 8.5 times greater than the initial risk. In other words, it turned a profit or an initial risk of approximately $360, ignoring slippage and commission, into just over $3,100. And this is the beauty of the Holy Grail trade setup, is because it allows you to get in at the end of the wave 2 correction, which allows you to enter a trade with the smallest initial risk to then ride the strongest and longest swing in a completed 5-wave sequence, which is the wave 3 swing, right up to our typical wave 3 WPT. So that allowed this smallest initial risk to then return the largest potential profit. So this is why I've nicknamed this the Holy Grail trade setup, not because it has a high percentage of winners, but because the profits are much, much larger than the initial risks. This is why I think this is one of the best trades in the book, and I think it's one of my favourite trade setups, and why MTPredictor was designed in the first place way back in 2001 to catch the strongest move to get the largest profit with the smallest initial risk. That's why it's I think it's one of the best trades there is, and why I've called it the Holy Grail. But can you see how MTPredictor has the tools to first and foremost highlight the area where you're likely to get the major support coming in? That then allowed you to then start looking for this initial rally, then initial correction, that then, using our correct position sizing, and now allowed us to come into a trade right off the wave 2 with the smallest initial risk to then make a nice big profit there. Yes, the market did carry on up later in the day, but that doesn't matter. What you're looking for in trading is you're looking for high probability, low risk trade setups. You're not looking just trying to capture any old move, because there's a risk associated with that. That's why this trade setup was the best, because everything came in together at the same time, and that gave you a big profit for a small initial risk. So an absolute excellent example here of the MTPredictor Holy Grail trade setup unfolding on the Nasdaq. This is actually on a 2-minute chart. We actually got the same thing unfolding on a 3-minute chart there as well. But I just showed you on the 2-minute chart because that pattern was just slightly better. So an absolutely brilliant example of the MTPredictor Holy Grail trade setup unfolding yesterday, where we actually returned a very nice 8.5 times profit over the initial risk. So a great example of the tools and the trades we like to look at in MTPredictor yesterday.